Today we're looking at the 16 best films of 2016. Welcome to FilmRiot, the show that takes mystery out of the effects and techniques, going to some of your favorite Hollywood films. I'm your host, Ryan Conley, and today we're doing something very different. Last year was such an amazing year for film that we wanted to give our list of the best films of 2016. Of course, this is my subjective opinion, and the list really isn't in any hard order, but hey, it's fun, so let's. First up on our list is Hell or High Water, starring Ben Foster, Chris Pine, and Jeff Bridges, written by Taylor Sheridan, who also wrote Sicario, and it's directed by David Mackenzie, director of Starred Up. It's a low-budget $12 million film that really is like a modern Western. After that, we have Nice Guys, which is easily the funniest film I saw last year. No surprise, it was written and directed by Shane Black and stars Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, which for me, they were the best on-screen duo that I've seen in a very long time. Unfortunately, the film didn't do that well at the box office, so definitely buy this up now that it's out to own. Moving on to our third film, Deadpool, which was the second funniest film that I saw last year. Of course, starring Ryan Reynolds and directed by Tim Miller. It was a very nice departure from the normal superhero fare. Fourth in line is The Jungle Book, directed by Jon Favreau. It was just an amazing mix of a live-action character in a mostly digital world. Just from a technical standpoint, I think this film blew me away the most last year. Moving on to Captain America: Civil War, directed by the Russo brothers, who proved again that they can direct the hell out of some action, which that's what this film did best for me. Just some completely badass action sequences. Definitely one of the most entertaining films of the year. Number 6 is Deepwater Horizon, directed by Peter Berg and his second collaboration with Mark Wahlberg. It's a solid account of what happened back in 2010, and it is my favorite so far from Peter Berg. He's incredibly good at building up tension, and this film is another great example of that. Moving on in the list, we have The Witch, the only horror film on my list and my favorite horror film of 2016. The Witch was written and directed by Robert Eggers, who did an excellent job at building and sustaining dread and unease throughout the entire film. The tone and pace were really perfect, and the cast and story were fascinating. It's one that I was still thinking about a week later. Moving on to Hacksaw Ridge, which is Mel Gibson's return to the director's chair after a 10-year hiatus. It stars Andrew Garfield and is about the first man in history to win a Medal of Honor without firing a single shot. I'm a huge fan of Mel Gibson's directing style, so it's really nice to have him back. Number 9, and my first animated film, Zootopia, which is a great kids movie, but also really well written, very funny, and my favorite detective story from last year. Up next, we have Moonlight, which just like Zootopia is rocking a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's written and directed by Barry Jenkins and carries some heavy and important themes with some gorgeous cinematography. Number 11 is 10 Cloverfield Lane. It was the directorial debut of Dan Trachtenberg, produced by J.J. Abrams, and stars 3 of my current favorite actors, John Goodman, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and John Gallagher Jr., and good God, are they fantastic in this. It's incredibly well shot and really well paced. If you miss old school nail-biting type thrillers, this will definitely quench that thirst. Number 12 is Rogue One. I'm a big fan of the way Gareth Edwards moves the camera to tell his story, so I knew at the very least I'd be enamored by the blocking alone, and I wasn't disappointed. Edwards and his DP, Greg Fraser, really created a visual meal for my eyes, and it was delicious. But it wasn't just the visuals. This one also had a really well-told story, some great standout characters, a touch slowly paced at times, but overall, so good. It also hit almost $1 billion worldwide already, so there is that. We still have 4 to go, but before we get to the top of my list, let's keep them lights on. If you're a budding filmmaker, entrepreneur, innovator, Domain.com is the place to go when that next idea hits you. When you buy a domain name from Domain.com, you're taking the first steps in creating an identity and vision for your brand or idea. The world's 2 top premier and most recognized domain extensions are .com and .net, which means those are the ones that will help you build your brand and expand your presence online the best. Of course, Domain.com is affordable, reliable, and easy to use, but they're also giving you some love with 25% off their already affordable prices when you get domain names, web hosting, and email. Just use the coupon code FilmRiot at Domain.com's checkout. And when you think domain names, think Domain.com. Logo. Jumping right back in with number 13, Manchester by the Sea, which has gained a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes and stars Casey Affleck, who just won a Golden Globe for his role here, and one of my favorite actresses, Michelle Williams. It's directed by Kenneth Lonergan and produced by Matt Damon. Number 14, Kubo and the Two Strings, and I have to say, this one irritates me a bit, and I'll tell you why. This isn't just one of the best animated films of last year, it's one of my favorite films of last year, full stop. Excellent story and voice acting with a ton of imagination, character, and heart. It's also from the same team that did Box Trolls, Paranorman, and Coraline, and this is definitely some of their most gorgeous work. But the film only made $69 million at the box office and is an example of how Hollywood isn't out of ideas. They just hardly gamble on original ideas anymore because no one goes and sees them. But you should absolutely see this one. It's on iTunes. Buy it, then buy it again. Number 15 is La La Land, starring Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, and was written and directed by Damien Chazelle, who is just killing it right now. His last film before this was Whiplash, and that was one of my favorite films of 2014, if not my absolute absolute favorite film of 2014. This guy's an absolute creative force. I cannot wait to see what he does next. And finally, my number 16 and my personal favorite film of 2016 is Arrival, directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite directors. His last film was Sicario, which was my favorite film of 2015, and now this. He's the director behind Prisoners, which was also on a whole nother level, and the tone he's able to set with a slow burn adds up to some excellent and intense experiences. I don't want to go into the reasons I love Arrival because I think that will actually give away too much if you haven't seen it, but I will say that he unfolds the story masterfully, and the cinematography by Bradford Young was absolutely gorgeous. Plus, we got another score from Johan Johansson, and I'll leave it at that. Pre-orders for the Blu-ray are out now, but I don't think there's a release date just yet, but watch it all the days once you can if you haven't already.
Logo.
But that's it, the best 16 films of 2016 in my personal opinion. Of course, we won't agree on all of them, and I want to know your top 16, so post that in the notes below so we can all check that out. As always, you can follow me on the Twitters right here, and I'll see you all next week when I explore the West Wing, even though I really shouldn't.